Salut everyone! In this video, I'm gonna talk about my experience with Hyprland. And guys, I went all in with this one. Let's get into it. As always, let's start with a little bit of context. I have been lurking Hyprland for almost 3 years now. Since I jumped into Linux, I always had this itch for getting into a Windows Manager. And I do believe that Hyprland right now is one of the most beautiful Windows Manager out there. And when I say beautiful, if you look at writing left and right, nothing can top it. It looks so cool. So what happened? 2.5 years ago, I tried to jump into Hyprland. And I had a big art block because NVIDIA was not really super good when it comes to Wayland. And it was for me not a great experience to say the least. So I gave up. With the release of the NVIDIA 555 driver, Wayland is now way better and you can use it as your daily driver without any issue. NVIDIA driver, daily driver, well, you got the idea, right? So I was like, okay, let's jump into it. And when I went into the patch note related to Hyprland, they were in a phase where they were moving from WL root backend to their new backend called Aquamarine. So I waited a little bit more and I was like, you know what, we're gonna wait until everything is kind of fixed on their end to do another full immersion into Hyprland, because I didn't feel like reinstalling everything, trying to rise my old desktop just to figure out that it will not be working with my hardware. The good news is I think it was 1 month, 1.5 months ago, the main dev of Hyprland mentioned that explicit sync was totally supported within Hyprland and NVIDIA wouldn't be a problem at all. So you know me, took one of my SSD, made a stream, and started to go into the Hyprland world. And I learned a lot and I want to share with you my experience for the last 30 days using Hyprland. So first as a side project, and then because I did something crazy, I did erase everything on my PC, all my hard drive, and really forcing myself to go on Hyprland. And well, it didn't go well. Okay, let's word it this way, it didn't go well. So I don't think it's a Hyprland fault. I think it's more a me fault, but I want to share my experience because you might be in the same position as me and you might lose a lot of time before arriving to the conclusion I did arrive. So now you understand a little bit more about my quest toward Hyprland. I want to also mention that I was really attracted by it because I do believe that Windows Manager does have an impact on your workflow. The way I use KDE, which is my main desktop environment for the last, I would say 2 years. I started with XFCE and now I'm KDE. I really like the way you can tile your windows and you can switch between desktop. And even if it's really good on KDE, I do believe Hyprland had a new level in terms of complexity, and I would say speed when you use those keyboard shortcuts to manage what is on your screen. And I have to say, mainly, I don't use my mouse on KDE, or I barely use it. I use a lot of my keyboard, and it did speed up my workflow like you have no idea. And I was expecting Hyprland to do the same. So now you understand where I come from and how I wanted to improve my productivity, really, switching to Hyprland. Let's talk about what makes Hyprland, I believe, the best right now Windows Manager out there. So the first point, it's looking beautiful. Whether, you are a Windows Manager lover or not, you can't deny that it looks really great. And I couldn't see anything like it on any other desktop environment so far. Obviously, this is subjective, but when you look at most of the writing out there and how people like them, it's definitely going toward Hyprland. Now, the second point is that Windows Manager in general are gonna make your productivity jump to another level when it works, but we'll talk about that after. And this is really something you should take in consideration. If you are, for example, like a coder, or you use features which are well supported within Hyprland, I think there is really like a big niche of users out there that are going to benefit like crazy using this Windows manager, that's for sure. So one that come out right now is like coding. Like if you are coding and you need to move your windows around and check stuff and really organize like a small, I would say, screen. For example, if you are working on a laptop, you're going to be golden with Hyprland, there is no question. So the third point is related to the resource usage. This is one of the lowest resource usage Windows manager and ever like desktop environment I ever used. I think the other one was i3. So you are in a space where if you have a low-end machine, running this type of Windows manager is going to be a big plus, because it's using nothing. Like you can have a system running with the smallest amount of resource imaginable. The fourth point is relating to the fact it's totally configurable. So if you want everything to look exactly as you would like, it's possible. It's gonna take you some time. We're gonna be talking about that in the cons, okay? Like the negative part. But if you want to do it, no problem, you can do it. Now for the fifth point is related to the fourth point. If you don't want to lose too much time and you want to find some type of like pre-configured setup, which are called like dot file, which are files like you will just copy and paste in your configuration folder for Hyprland, and will set up everything exactly as the main author decided. You can do that. So you have a lot of like pre-configured Hyprland rising out there. You can just download and install. Like some of them have installer script and you have nothing to do. You just click there and you're gonna reboot on a pre-config Hyprland. You could do that. However, it's not going to be yours. And what I notice is that if you jump into that and you are really happy about the rising itself, you are golden. If you are like me and there is some things that you don't really like because it's not really the way you like your workflow to go on, starting to go into those files and trying to find which variable is going to impact what you really want to change can be a big mayhem. And what I learned from my 30 days experience there is that it's better to start from scratch and do your own thing. And we're going to talk about that after. So point number 6 is related to the wiki of Hyprland. It's one of the best wiki I found out there. If you are new and a totally beginner like I was, if you read the wiki, you will be able to go through everything. Like you don't need to ask anything to anyone. There is some feature which are like totally lacking, and then you're going to have to go on GitHub to see if it's your inability to read the wiki that put you in your situation, or if it's actually an issue out there. And you will see like their GitHub has a lot of issue. I would say like the wiki itself, if you are patient, if you are organized, you should be able to go through it. It's one of the, again, like best wiki out there, I have to say. And the last point, I think it's point number 7, is related to gaming. So when it comes to gaming, I did multiple streams. I'm going to put the link in the description below. The experience for gaming, at least on my machine, was golden. And when I say golden, it's golden. Explicit sync was working. I was able to allow tearing on my game without issue. And I had some of the best performance in terms of input lag and in terms of like FPS overall on Hyprland. So it takes, again, some configuration. You can just arrive and launch a game. This is not the experience on Hyprland. We're going to talk about that after, but if you set it up correctly, you should have a really good gaming experience. So now let's talk about the negative. And yes, I've been speaking really fast because I have a lot of things to say, and you will see the negative is going to be a pretty huge part of this video. So the first one is related to the fact that you need to run it on Wayland. And I know some of you out there doesn't want to use Wayland, think it's still buggy for any good reason. And I'm going to stop you right there. This Windows Manager doesn't run on X11. So if you are stuck on X11 for whatever reason, well, too bad. it's not for you. So the second point is related to the installation. You will notice really fast that if you want to install Hyprland in one of the most stable distro like Debian, well, you won't be able to install it. You're gonna have to change your repo to testing at least to go there, and it kind of like breaks the purpose, my opinion, like of running Debian, but this is another point. So you need pretty recent packages and dependency when it comes to compiling this baby and installing Hyprland. And yes, so this is something you have to take in consideration. If you rock a really stable distro, well, Hyprland won't be for you, at least when I'm recording this video. Now, the third point is related to your familiarity with editing file and Linux in general. If you jump into the bandwagon of Hyprland and you are more like a GUI guy and you don't want to edit text file, well, listen, this is not for you. Or you're gonna have to change. And you're gonna have to change drastically because the way you configure Hyprland is through one big text file you're gonna have to edit. And you're gonna see in the next point, like you're gonna have to edit it a lot. And not only you're gonna have to do that for Hyprland, but you're gonna have to do it for all the other applications which are going to come and add new feature within the Windows Manager. So let me explain what it's all about. So when you arrive for the first time on Hyprland and you want to do your own configuration, nothing is gonna be there. You won't have any status bar, you won't have any notification bar, you won't even have a desktop wallpaper. And the thing is, if you want to add those, you're gonna have to add the specific application related to installing those features, and then you're gonna have to configure them. And most of them, they have the same, I would say, like approach, which is like going into your config file and editing them one by one. And I'm telling you, it's gonna be a lot of editing, and the more you get into it, the more you're gonna have to edit. So to the defense of Hyprland, on paper, if you have done that once, you should be able to just like transfer your configuration file to another machine and it should be working out of the box. And to be fair, I did that. I did a backup of my Arch Linux install, and then I reinstalled it, for example, on CachyOS for fun. And it took me like less than 5 minutes to have everything set up because I had a list of all the packages I had installed on Arch, and then I had all my config file, my dot file for Hyprland in a zip. I just copied them and boom, everything worked. It's not time you really lose, but it's time you're gonna have to invest. Let's word it this way. It's a time investment you're gonna have to put into this Windows Manager, but then when it's done, you can transfer it, you can modify it pretty fast, so it shouldn't be a problem. But you will see, like, I do believe I'm kind of a noob when it comes to this type of like Windows Manager configuration, because this is not something I'm used to. You're gonna spend like 20 hours easy, like I'm gonna say like easy, and you wouldn't have scratched the surface. You wouldn't have scratched the surface. You need to be aware of that. So now I mentioned time-consuming aspect. I need to add something else, which is also super important. You will see that when you add all those features left and right, you will have to spend even more time to solve issues which are related to each application you add to your Windows Manager. So to give you a straight example, I spent, I think, like 1 hour, 1 hour and a half to set up my lock application. So what is a lock application? I don't think it's the right term, but who cares? It's like, you know, like if you want to lock your desktop and just have to type a little password to get back in. So this is an extra application you need to install and configure. And the issue I had was related to power consumption. What I like to do on my PC is that having always my screen on until I lock my PC. Like that, when I lock my PC, I set a timer and all my screen goes into like sleeping, they turn off. And when I come back and I move my mouse, I have to unlock and go back at it. And what I noticed is like there is a loop in Hyprland and the specific application I was using. I think it's called Hyperlock. So trying to execute that on Hyprland was not easy as it looked, because the power management of my screen was not related to the application itself, but it was related to Hyprland itself, which means like just like turning my screen off after a certain timer after locking my screen was kind of like a hard way to set it up. And I spent like, I think like 1.5 hours to find a solution that kind of fit me, but it's not straightforward. And you need to have like your mind, like kind of like a coder to get there. So I did it. But just doing this one feature burned like, again, like 1.5 hours, 2 hours of my time to, you know, do the testing, make sure it works. And there were not like case scenario where I would have, you know, like the impossibility, for example, to log back into my desktop because my screen are off and there is nothing that, you know, pops them up. It was really hard, and it took me 2 hours to figure this out. So I know I'm not really clear on that because it's quite complex, and I don't want to spend like 20 minutes explaining how I fixed it. But I want you to be aware that it's not like in KDE where you click one button on the GUI and you're like, boom, it's done. It's not like that. It's a lot of thought and process just to do that. Another like totally like game-breaking issue I fell on was related to WayBar, which is like the status bar. You can put wherever you want on your desktop. And the issue I had is like I had tray icons there. I really love like having like tray icon on my desktop. And if you are using any type of application which doesn't run natively on Wayland, for example, which has to go for Wine, in my case, Proton, those applications, they will not go within the tray of WayBar. So, concrete example, I'm using Heroic Game Launcher to launch my Battle.net. And when you launch Battle.net, it will create a little tray icon up there. Issue is that when you do that on Hyprland with WayBar, you cannot have this tray icon showing up in your WayBar tray icon, which is your main tray icon. So what happened is like it will just pop out a little, I'm gonna try to find a picture out there of someone who had the issue too. And you have this little like windows which is just floating around with the tray icon within it. And it kind of like break everything for me because you're gonna be spending like 20 hours, 30 hours to set up everything and just to see that there is technical limitation related to Hyprland or WayBar or whatever. Like, I don't want to blame anyone out there, but like, it kind of breaks the whole principle, right? You spend this amount of hours to set it up, and then you have this random like window floating with your tray icon of Battle.net or Epic Game because he has to go through, you know, Wine to run, and you're like, wow, like, it just breaks the immersion in my opinion. And there is nothing you can do. So yeah, there is thing you can do. You can create way to hide it, but then you don't have access to it anymore. Or I could buy, for example, like I was using Diablo 4 there. I could rebuy Diablo 4 within Steam to avoid that. But like, what, like, I'm not going to do that. So this one, the first like hard stop, will kind of like really put me in a position where I was super disappointed. Okay, because right now, like, you have to think it this way. I'm 24 in of work, trying to figure out everything. And I arrive on this hard stop, which has no solution. Or solution which are not aligned with my expectation. So now another issue I run into was relating to tiering. And if you want to activate tiering on your game, you have to do it at a level for each game. So you have to declare in your hyprland.conf which application, which client is going to be required, like the tiering feature. And if you are playing one game, it's okay, you know, you just edit your file, you have a command line to type to make sure that each time you launch your game, you recognize the client description. So, for example, on Steam, it will be the Steam apps number. You go there, you add it, and you're fine. But for someone like me, who has a lot of games and are always testing new game, it means that I have to remember that I have to edit my Hyprland config each time I want to test a new game, check the name of the window, and put it out there. And this is a pain, right? So you're going to say, oh, Airmax, you are being lazy. But like, come on, dude. Like, I shouldn't be doing that. We should have a feature which say, hey, when you have a full screen application on this screen, boom, he automatically do it. So maybe you guys know how to do that. But yeah, for me, it's another no-go. And now the last one, which was definitively game-breaking for me. So I told you, like, the games are run really well. But something that was a hard stop, like, which was just put, I would say, the nail on the coffin for Hyprland, was related to color management. So color management is something which is required for my workflow when I edit video. I need to see what is the actual color on my screen. So if you don't know what color management is, long story short, most of the screen out there, even if they have a really wide color, I would say like ability, so they are good monitor, what you're gonna need is some type of profile called ICC, which are like color profile. You're gonna apply to each of your monitor to make sure the accuracy of your color is like almost like at 100% of what it's supposed to be. And it's important for me because when I record a video, I want to make sure that what you see is well colored. It's something that you can't do natively within Hyprland. So there is a way where you could add the color profile within the application. And like that, it's going to look well. But then I have other problem because some of the application I've used, they use like multiple screen. For example, DaVinci Resolve, which means that I'm going to have to add the color profile of my main screen, but my second screen won't have the right color profile, which means that I can't work. Or I could, but then my content colorimetry won't be what it's supposed to be because of my Windows Manager. So I noticed there is an issue on GitHub related to that, and there is a lot of people like going into it because, you know, if the goal is really to increase your productivity and you are working on Hyprland, well, this is going to be a big turnoff for a lot of users out there, and especially me. So this was the feature that kind of like break it totally for me. Like it just break it. All right, guys. So now you know my experience on Hyprland. I still think this is the best or one of the best Windows Manager out there for Linux. But the issue is that my opinion, again, just my opinion, is subjective. For my usage, it's not ready. It's not, I would say, like ready for the type of usage and workflow I have on my PC. And I just can't use it. And you know, like before you get into like, oh, you didn't do, you know, you didn't do enough, you didn't go, you know, hardcore enough within Hyprland. I want to tell you guys that I had it on my separate SSD for like 2 weeks, and I was going in and out. I was really trying to push it on a daily basis, trying to use my applications there and learn, and it was fine until I had those big roadblocks. The main roadblock really is related to the color management. And when I hit it, I was like, so I spent like what, like 30, 40 hours within the writing of this Windows Manager, and I can't do that. Like there is no way I'm going to be able to do that. And man, like it just killed it. It just killed it to a point where I was like, okay, I'm out. I'm going to make a video about it. And, you know, some of you guys out there are going to be ready about it, happy about it. I would say, like, if I had a laptop, and I don't have a laptop. I don't own one right now. But I think, like, the day I buy a laptop, I'm going to use Hyprland on it. Like, there is no question about it. Because the way I will use my laptop will be more, you know, to do some, I would say, like, typing. It makes sense, like typing, but like more like, you know, coding, managing, like browsing, office related stuff, like really like not heavy type of stuff. And I think Hyprland with a small, I would say like real estate, like on a laptop is the GOAT. Like there is no question about it, because the way you can move between different like desktop and move around like all your windows around your screen will be perfect for this usage. There is no talk, like there is not even an argument related to that. But for my usage right now, not happening. So guys, let me know in the comment below, like if you had any type of like issue related to Hyprland, or if you think I'm too harsh, because I know like there is a big community out there which are like really into Hyprland. But yeah, for me, I went back to KDE, and I also think that the day like the color management arrive in Hyprland, I might give it another shot, because I still think that it will make my productivity a little bit faster compared to KDE. But until then, I'm gonna stay on KDE. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to put a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, it helps the channel a lot, and see you in the next one. Bisous bisous.